Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to my Saturday Hodgepodge for this Saturday, my weekly ramble about books and bookish stuff. I almost forgot to film this one. You can tell probably by the lighting that it's nighttime, and I usually film these on Friday and then do the editing and post them for Saturday morning, and I literally almost forgot today. I kept getting busy doing other things, so I almost forgot, but I had some stuff that I wanted to talk to you about, and I thought what I would do first this week in my Saturday Hodgepodge is I would do the shout-outs first. Usually I leave the shout-outs for the end. You know, the channel recommendations, the shout-outs, the videos I think you should watch, I leave those for the end. But as someone who does occasionally look at my BookTube analytics, I know that not everybody watches my videos all the way to the end, which is fine, by the way. I appreciate people coming to watch them at all, but that means a lot of times the shout-outs, I think, go unnoticed. So I thought I would do my shout-outs up front. And this week I thought that I would shout out channels which I may or may not have shouted out before, which are primarily channels devoted to or where the creator reads a lot of genre fiction. So I thought since Halloween is this week, I would concentrate on channels that focus on or where the creator reads a lot of sci-fi, horror, fantasy. That's what I wanted to do. And so I just have a list of channels here. I want to start off with James Holder. James Holder's a member of the BookTube community. He does a lot of tags. James writes, I believe he's getting ready for NaNoWriMo to start in November. And he also reads and has a tremendous background in reading fantasy. I believe he reads some horror. I believe he reads some sci-fi as well. Please go check out his channel. I'll leave links to all these channels down below. I wrote them all on this really tiny page. Also, a channel that's devoted to mainly reading horror novels and kind of sometimes YA horror novels is Darkness Between Pages. Nikki just changed the name of her channel, and Nikki is great. She does author spotlights where she has indie authors on and she interviews them. She's a huge supporter of indie authors and a huge supporter of indie presses, so please go check out her channel. I think she's great. Ramsey, who I believe I've mentioned several times, his name of his channel is Rajathon, and Ramsey, I'll be honest with you, reads everything. He did the Faulkner and August read along with us of The Sound of the Fury this August, and he reads a lot of stuff, but he does read a lot of fantasy. I believe he reads a lot of sci-fi. I believe he reads a lot of horror, and he has great videos, and his voice is the kind of voice that I wish I had to talk in my videos, so go check Ramsey out. There's also Regina's Haunted Library. As the name implies, Regina does a lot of her channel is kind of focused on horror for the most part, and she just did a really great video in which she talked about local haunts. You know, there's that book by indie writers, a lot of whom were booktubers like Dane Cobain and so on, who all contributed a story, a horror story, I believe, to this collection called Local Haunts, and she did her own version of that tag in the area where she lives, and I just thought that was really great. And then also I wanted to mention Jason's Weird Reads. Jason is a writer, and he reads a lot of horror. I believe that's also the genre that he writes in. He's been around BookTube for quite some time. He is a great guy with an interesting channel. So you know, please go check out all these channels. Like I said again, I'll leave the link in the description box down below. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today is kind of one of my typical, hey, let's see if we can't stir up some crap kind of BookTube discussion. And one of the things that gets kind of the most gets people the most fired up, I think, are things having to do with book prizes or lists. So what I want to talk about today is a Time magazine article, which came out relatively recently, I believe, in which they listed the top 100 fantasy books of all time. Or maybe they're the most important fantasy books of all time. I can't remember. It says the 100 best fantasy books of all time. That's the name of the article, and that's the title of the list. And so I'll leave a link to that down below so you can see it as well. Now I have to be honest with you, and this is like absolute, you know, confession time. The only reason I know anything about this list is because I was checking out the channel of someone who left a mean comment on someone else's channel, and they had a video about this in which they were more or less expressing their displeasure with the list and all the omissions, which kind of then brought up for me, in thinking about it, the same thing comes up with book prizes in general is anybody ever really completely happy? Or do we ever have a list which makes everybody happy? Is it possible to create a list of 100 of the best books, or the 100 of best anything, or heck, 10 of the best anything, and everybody to end up being happy? Everybody's always going to feel like there are omissions. Everyone's always going to feel like there's some kind of bias. But what I want you to do, if you're interested, is to click on the link, and just real quickly you can navigate the page there, and you can look at their list of 100 books. I believe they have them listed chronologically from the oldest to the newest, and see what you think about that. See if you found any omissions. The person whose channel I went to, who I won't link here because, like I said, I only followed them because they left a rude comment on someone else. I only checked out their channel because they left a rude comment on someone else's. I don't want to promote that kind of channel, but that person actually had some fairly good examples of books, authors, I think, who they said should have been included. I think anybody could come up with that, or could come up with a similar list. So I'm interested in seeing, what books you would add. Are there books on the list you think are just ridiculous? So after you look over the list, and before you get really angry, I want you to take a look at how they created their list, because I think it's pretty interesting. I think the way in which they created their list probably explains a lot of the inclusions and the omissions on the list. Anyway, I just want to hear what you have to think about that, particularly since I know a lot of people on BookTube are active fantasy readers today, or they read a lot of fantasy in their past life, like I did, or maybe they still dip in and out of the genre from time to time. Just be interested to see what your reaction to that list is, and then your reaction to how they came up with that, and if you think that their process was fair. Anyway, I was just curious about that, and so be interested to see what you think, and maybe I'll readdress my own thoughts about the list next week. I have to tell you, I haven't read the majority of the books on that list because I don't read a lot of fantasy anymore. As a matter of fact, I've probably read more of the books that were omitted that are in the fantasy genre than were included. But anyway, I kind of thought that was interesting. Wanted to see what you had to think about it. Victober is still going on, and I'm still really, really, really enjoying my Victober this year. I finished Jane Eyre this week, and this was great. I said before the month started, before I started reading, this was a reread for me. I was confident that I'd read Jane Eyre at some point, but as I started reading it, I thought to myself, I'm not sure I actually read this. Maybe this is a book that I was supposed to have read, and I just kind of faked it, and I just kind of got the bare outline. But anyway, in rereading it, I really, really liked it. I think Jane is an amazing character. As I said in a comment over on Hannah's channel, Hannah's Books channel, I said in a comment there, Jane kicks ass. I think that's true. I did have a few issues with Jane's love interest, and maybe that's because, as I want to do, I developed a little bit of a crush on Jane in the sense that, I admired her. I thought she was this incredible person, and I didn't think that either of the two men from whom she had marriage proposals were really worthy of her, and I thought the parts of the book where she was kind of with them were the weakest, to me, the weakest and least enjoyable parts of the book. But I did finish that, and I really, really liked it. And then this week I started reading The Odd Women by George Gissing. I'm not nearly as far into the book as I should be. I'm only on about page 90, and I should have finished page 200 today, to give you some idea of how far behind I am in my schedule. And it's not because I'm not enjoying it. I am. It's just that because I've been doing a lot of other things. One of which is writing, which has been really rewarding lately, but also taking up a lot of my time. But I am really enjoying this, and I should finish this, well before the end of the month, so that I can get to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde right around the time of Halloween, because that was my plan all along. And like I said many times, I'm just kind of taking it easy this Victober, enjoying the books that I chose to read, and not really pushing myself to read a whole lot. So if I only finish those 4 books, which is my plan, then I'll be perfectly happy with that. The other thing I wanted to mention in the in this video is that my video and my short story series over Raymond Carver's story, Cathedral, that video will go up on Tuesday. I won't be doing a tag this Tuesday. I'll do my short story video on Tuesday because normally I schedule those things for the 25th, and I believe Tuesday would be the 27th. That seems close enough to me. And that'll just be then on my regular scheduled day. So I'll try to remember to leave the link to the PDF in the show notes down below, as well as links to the channels that I shouted out, and a link to that Time article, so maybe you can go over and get mad about the 100 best fantasy books of all time. Anyway, there you go. There's my Saturday Hodgepodge for this week. Look forward to your comments in the comment section below, and as always, thank you for watching.